Good morning. I would like to begin by a quote from the late Maya Angelou. She once said that a great soul serves everyone all the time. A great soul never dies. It brings us together again and again. Today, we gather together to honor a very special soul. It is here that we will celebrate the life as we gather to remember Christina Moreland. My name is Bonnie Marchand, and I have the extreme privilege of being the celebrant for our time together today. Thank you so much for being here this morning. On November 13th, we said goodbye to someone who held a very special place in each of your hearts. For it was on that day that Christina peacefully passed away, leaving us all saddened and a little shaken. Today we gather not just to mourn, but to honor the woman that she was and the countless cherished moments Christina gifted to each of you. It is a day dedicated to reminiscing about the stories and the experiences and the laughter that have enriched our lives because of her presence. In honor of today's service, I would like to ask, please, that if you have not done so already, take out your cell phones or electronic devices and place them on silent for the remainder of the service. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in times like this, it's important for us to pause, to take a breath, and reflect on the moments that we shared. It is here today that we will share our stories, perhaps shed tears, but we will definitely lean on each other for support. Now, we're going to share a lot more about Christina, but first, I would like to speak about the flowers that were presented by Christina's family at the beginning of this service. For thousands of years, humankind has sought comfort in flowers. They silently reassure us that beauty and solace endure, even in the midst of loss. Flowers bring a peaceful voice to grief, and they symbolize hope. These flowers, a symphony of blooms, unite in the timeless message of love and gratitude for this very special lady. Their vibrant petals capture her family's emotions, and most importantly, they gently whisper the words, "We will always love and remember you." Now, just as a flower cannot live without light and water, humankind cannot live without some form of a spiritual life. As we take a moment to remember Christina and the love that she brought into your lives, I'd like to offer a simple blessing to each of you. If you wish, please bow your heads in reflection or prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for Christina, for her love, her strength, and the memories that she leaves with us. Help us carry her spirit forward by remembering the joy that she brought and the kindness that she gave. As Christina's family and friends gather here today and online, be near to them all. Comfort those who could not be here today in person, wherever they are. Ease our sadness and grant us the gift of healing memories, and let us laugh as we recall her joy. And by doing this, it may lift our hearts from our grief as we remember the warmth of her love. And as we begin this journey of grief, may your loving arms surround each and every one of these beautiful people, giving them strength to find peace in the days ahead. Amen. It is said that in times of darkness, love sees. In times of silence, love heals. In times of doubt, love hopes. And in times of sorrow, love comforts. But in all times, love remembers. And as we remember today, we know that Christina's story is best told through the voices of those who knew her best. And her family has prepared some words to share with us today. And to begin, I would like to invite her son, Tim Moreland, to come forward and share those memories in the form of a eulogy.
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here, friends, family. I see a lot of familiar faces. The one person who isn't here that my mother would have loved to have been here is my brother Jim. And because he passed away a little bit ago, he was not able to be here. But my mom wanted everybody to acknowledge the fact that for the last number of years, he has been the backbone of her life. He has taken her shopping. He has taken her to doctor appointments. He has taken her every place. He would go and visit her 3 or 4 times a week sometimes to just bring her pop and a few things. So I want to acknowledge the life that isn't here that should be acknowledged for my mother. And I brought one of his correction pens with me so that I'd have some support giving this eulogy. When I thought about what I wanted to say about my mom, there's tons and tons of stories I've heard over the years. But I actually thought, what did my mom give me? And my mom gave me some very interesting lessons in my life, and she never even realized that she'd ever given them to me. But in roundabout ways, she had. One of the first things she gave me is perseverance. Remember very early on, my mother rented a garden plot out of town. And of course, we all came from farming communities, so more is always better. And this farming plot was a piece of a farm field that was tilled up, and the ground looked beautiful, black dirt. And we went there and we planted row after row after row after row of seeds, and thinking, no, this is great. And my mother constantly would make me come and help her. Well, it rained, life was good, the sun came out, and we went back to look at our garden, and it was nothing but weeds. So you got to think, 50 feet by 100 feet, that's a lot of weeds. For a week, every day we went and we pulled weeds, and we pulled weeds, and we pulled weeds. And that week finally ended, and I thought, this is the most crazy woman I've ever met. She's a drill sergeant. And I thought, okay, now it's over. But nope, the following week we had to go and thin out rows and pour more weeds. And then the following week it was hilling potatoes and getting eaten by mosquitoes. And the following week it was another horrid thing. And the summer went on, and this garden grew into a beautiful garden. There was potatoes, tomatoes, corn, lettuce, you name it, it was there. And my mother looked at it and she said, isn't it beautiful? And I looked at it and thought, frick, we have to harvest this thing. So you'd think that experience alone would have never drove me to becoming a horticulturalist, but it did. That was kind of a segue to what was also going on in my life at that time. I was in high school. I hated high school. Hated it. Didn't like it, didn't love it, didn't want to be there. But my mother always insisted that I finished high school. And reluctantly enough, I did finish high school. And I got my diploma, and I put it on the table in front of her, and I said, here, Are you happy? And she looked at it and she kind of smirked and she said, well, it's not going to do me any good. And at that point, I really realized that it wasn't the diploma that was important to her. It was important that I finished the journey. And so my mother taught me perseverance through life. You start a task, you finish a task. You have something that's important to you, you follow it, and you reach for it. Through life, you can make mistakes. Mistakes are good, failures are good as long as you try. That was her lesson to me without ever knowing it. And for that, I'm very grateful. The other thing that my mother taught me is the importance of community. And this started from a very young age. Being at home in our neighborhood, I think it was probably as long far as I can remember back. Once a week or twice a week, all the neighborhood women would get together at 10 o'clock in the morning and have tea. And it was a social event where all these women who were housewives at the time and who had kids could get together and socialize and complain about their lives and, talk about their joys and their gardens and, everything that was going on in their life. And it was very important that these women got together on a regular basis because it was their community, it was their support group. And it really enhanced the word neighbor and neighborhood. And growing up, there wasn't anybody in our neighborhood that didn't know everybody else and who would support everybody else. And I started really seeing the importance of community. Over the years, she had other communities. She had the Foresters, which is an organization like the Elks. And there was lots of things that we used to do. One of the big things in her life was camping in the camping club. And I see many members of the camping club here still. And they would go camping and they would have a great time and they would socialize and they would dance and they would share food. And they became friends. Not only while they were camping, but outside of camping. They had banquets. They visited each other. It was a wonderful way of creating community. One of the biggest parts of my life was her at my greenhouse. In 1999, I started a greenhouse operation, and it was me and my partner at that time, and little did we know how overwhelmed we would be the first season. We had seeds that were growing, we had plugs that were there, we had roses to be planted, and there was the two of us. And so one day I phoned Mom and I said, Mom, can you come and help? We need some help. And she said, sure. And the next day she showed up with Hilda. And her and Hilda transplanted for a week at the greenhouse. And they were just machines. And the whole time they laughed and talked and joked with our staff. The third week, they brought in Elsa. And then Elsa brought in Roger. And the next thing, we have a whole community of her friends that she had met over the years at the greenhouse, enjoying life, laughing, and supporting us and helping us create our business. It was a very good lesson on how one person's experiences and community can meld into other people's communities. During the greenhouse time, my mother would also bring in friends that she had from school. So when we think about, do you remember your friends from elementary school? My mother still visited with them and brought them to the greenhouse with her sister, and they spent the whole day there eating food, looking at plants, buying things. And this went on for years and years and years until physically it couldn't happen anymore. But my staff at the greenhouse still talk about those days when they would come to the greenhouse and they'd have to rush around beforehand and clean things up and make sure the bathroom was clean because the ladies were coming for the day. And it was like bringing in royalty. Over the years, Mom brought many people into the greenhouse operation, many friends, lots of family, and to her, that was her family, her community. And she grew my community. My staff became friends and community. And to this day, everyone still remembers my mother as this gray-haired lady that could plant plants faster than anyone else and was an inspiration to all, always had a kind word to say. The greenhouse was definitely her happy place and where I learned to have a lot of fun and good memories with my mother. And to this day, it still is a place that I see her. This last year, she made her last trip to the greenhouse. And even then, she was walking around with her walker complaining that the plants weren't watered enough, that no one had cut them back. She was definitely still in the position of the matriarch of the garden, or of the greenhouse. Her involvement there really inspired me to be part of bigger communities. And, my greenhouse staff is my family because of the way that my mother treated all her friends as family and lifelong friends. My mother, in the last couple of years, moved to Aspen House. And when it first happened, it was kind of controversy, moving your mother into an extended care facility. And we felt like maybe this was not the right choice, but for us, maybe not the right choice. But from the minute she got there, she loved it. And like her, she started creating her own communities with the staff, with the people there. She was always very pleasant and positive. We were there the other day, and the staff said they loved her, and she was one of their favorite tenants. Probably say that about everyone, but it felt good. We learned that she was going out during the days and playing bingo and playing cards and, watching people and visiting. And one of her big accomplishments is her contribution to the plants that we would take to Aspen House. At the end of our season, we would take all of our leftover plants and hanging baskets to Aspen House. And we would donate. They would come and take van loads of plants for their facility. And this was a really big help for them because of their finances. So all of a sudden, the whole place explodes with plants. And who's there to accept them? My mother. The plants would come into Aspen House, and she would sit there in her walker examining every single tray, every single plant, and telling the girls what to do with them and where they should go and how they should be cared for. It was her contribution and her contribution to the community there. And I was very proud to be a part of that, being able to facilitate that for her, where her life is almost went a complete circle. She was back controlling and being the matriarch of the plant program there. You probably didn't realize how much she influenced me through her strength and unwillingness to give up, and the way she made everyone into family. And so I hope we can all go forward today and appreciate our friends, our families, and our communities. Thank you very much. I don't have any more time, do I?
Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. Though I didn't have a chance to meet with Christina personally, I feel as though I've come to know her through the stories that her family has shared with me. Stories filled with love, laughter, and warmth, and the kind of personality that leaves an imprint long after someone is gone. I learned that she was kind, strong, full of life, and as you just heard, truly the heart of her family. I found out that Christina found joy in many, many places. She loved being with the people she cherished most, sharing time together, celebrating and finding beauty in the earth, in the plants, and in the simple everyday moments. And if you were doing anything in those moments, you'd better be doing it properly. Because Christina was wonderfully, unapologetically particular. Whether it was wiping the kitchen table, washing and drying the clothes, or making her bed, it had to be done well and done her way. Even in her later years at Aspen Place, where she was genuinely happy, if her bed wasn't made just right by the staff, well, let's just say no one had a good day. But that's who she was. She brought that same meticulous spirit to her cooking, especially her famous fried chicken dinners with mashed potatoes and gravy. It was a family favorite, one that could easily give the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise a run for their money. And her secret, perhaps in the beginning years, but later, she didn't deep fry it. She baked the chicken. Simple, clever, and delicious, very much like herself. Christina was also very particular about her appearance. She came from an era when a lady simply did not leave the house unless she looked put together. Hairstyled with her beloved Aquanet hairspray, clothes coordinated, and always her signature lipstick, CoverGirl 275. She kept tubes of it everywhere. In her home, in her purse, ready for touch-ups throughout the day. Because she knew who she was and how she wanted to present herself. And she wanted to present herself to the world with pride. Now, I also learned that she was married to her beloved husband, Leslie, for almost 50 years. And when he passed away in 1998, her world changed dramatically. You know, there's a quote from a movie entitled Fried Green Tomatoes that speaks beautifully, I think, to this moment in her life. The quote is, "A heart can be broken, but it still keeps on beating just the same." At 67, her heart was broken, but it kept beating. And in that painful transition, she had to become independent very, very quickly. She took on everything, the bills, the home, the finances. But you know, those instincts that were honed from her early farm life, that's what saved her. She rose to the occasion with dignity and courage and that quiet, steady grace that defined her. Christina, as you have heard, also found comfort and purpose in her garden, tending her flowers and plants with care and watching them grow under her gentle hand. She was vibrant, outgoing, and wonderfully social in her younger years. And she carried some of that vibrancy, even if it wasn't all of it, into her later years. She bowled for many years in a bowling league, and she even tried her hand at lawn bowling, always ready for something new. She belonged to many different clubs over the years, including the IOF Camping Club and the Northgate Lions Senior Center Club, known as the Wizards. She even joined the Happy Hooker Club, a lively group dedicated to crocheting and knitting, and a name she carried with good humor. But something I especially learned, above all the things that Christina tried her hand at, the one thing above it all was that she loved to dance. The big band era spoke to her soul. Whether it was the two-step, the waltz, the foxtrot, didn't matter. She was often the first to the dance floor, moving with joy and confidence, and a spark that made her quite unforgettable. Now, she loved not just dance, but she loved music. And of course, she also loved the movie, The Sound of Music. Its spirit and warmth and timeless hope echoed her own outlook on life. In thinking of her today, I'm reminded of the line within that movie that says, "I go to the hills when my heart is lonely." And it's a beautiful reminder that peace can be found in the world around us, something Christina embraced by working in her garden, by listening to her music, and by nurturing all those friendships and the love that she gave so freely from them. In her later years, when her hearing loss made socializing a bit more difficult, she grew quieter, but the light within her never truly dimmed. She remained the same loving and resilient person that was there, always there. Christina lived with intention and care, with flair and with her heart. And though she is no longer with us, the beauty that she brought into the world, in her family, in her home, in her garden, and in the many lives that she brightened, that is what continues on. And now, as we gently return from Tim's and this past tribute, we turn toward the part of the story that's never easy to speak about, the goodbye. There are things that we do not want to happen, but we have to accept. Things that we do not want to know, but we have to learn. And people that we cannot live without, but we have to let go. Letting Christina go may be one of the hardest things you've faced. And maybe that's because it just shows how deeply connected you were to her. Her warmth and her wisdom and her quiet strength were at the very center of many cherished moments for all of you. I'm kind of big on quotes, as you're beginning to realize, but I find that they really impact a situation. And as I was writing this, I thought of another one that's linked to Winnie the Pooh above all things. And it was on my mind as I wrote this service. And that quote is, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so very hard." And that's exactly how it feels. You were lucky to have her in your life, in all those relationships that she nurtured, every one of them unique and something that just you and her truly knew. For some moments in life, ladies and gentlemen, there are no words. In the late evening hours of November 13th, Christina passed away at the age of 95 years, quietly and peacefully at the Sturgeon Hospital after a brief illness. She lived through a century of change in herself, in her family, and in the world around her. And some of that change, most of that change, she embraced. Some of it she met with a little grumble. But through it all, she kept going, always moving forward. And she really, I believe, demonstrated to everyone what quiet strength and purpose really looks like. And even though she isn't here with us now, her love hasn't gone anywhere. It's still in the room, in the memories, in the laughter, and in that unmistakable spark that was hers alone. Losing someone that we love does not simply break us. It reshapes us. It alters the landscape of our days. How do we cope with losing someone who has been the central part of our lives? We are left holding an abundance of love, and yet there seems to be nowhere to place it. That, my friends, is the very essence of grief. A testament to how deeply we loved and how deeply we ourselves were loved in return. Grief truly has a way of arriving in waves, sometimes soft and quiet, and sometimes sudden and overwhelming. A song, a familiar scent, or even a quiet moment can bring it all rushing back days, weeks, months later. But that's okay. It's simply the heart's way of honoring what mattered most. It's simply being human. Somewhere, Christina's watching over you. In the breeze, in the sunlight, in the garden where the weeds grow, and in the laughter that you share. She's there. And she always will be. In times of loss, we often turn to words that have comforted generations before us. Words that remind us of peace, of presence, and of a love that endures well beyond this life. At this time, for those who wish, I invite you to bow your heads and join me in reciting the Lord's Prayer, a passage that has brought peace and strength to many. Please bow your heads. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Matthew 6-19. As we continue this time of remembrance, I'd now like to turn to a short tribute that speaks to us in rhythm and in rhyme. It is said that poetry speaks to our mind and soul because it allows us to see things perhaps a little differently than we did before. What you're about to hear is a poem that I believe reflects the beautiful and deeply loved life of Christina. It's entitled, Only My Best. When I come to the end of my journey and I travel my last weary mile, just forget if you can that I ever frowned, and remember only my smile. Forget unkind words that I may have spoken, and remember some good that I have done. Forget that I ever had heartache, and remember I've had loads of fun. Then forget to grieve for my going, because I would not want you sad, not even for a day. And in the seasons I will be near, when you gather for fun, laughter, and play. And come the shade of the evening, when the sun paints the sky in the west, stand for a few moments to think of me, and please remember only my best. As we come to the close of this celebration of life for Christina, her family would like to express their heartfelt thanks for your presence here today, both in person and online. Your support and your kindness and your compassion during this difficult time has truly, truly been a source of comfort. You are warmly invited to continue this time of remembrance with fellowship, shared memories, and refreshments in the reception hall located just outside of these chapel doors in the adjacent building to your right. I also would like to personally thank Christina's family for giving me the privilege of standing and speaking about this beautiful lady. I would like to think that not only is her spirit here, but she has now joined all those who have gone before her, including her son, Jim, and that together they are smiling, hand in hand, and waiting patiently and gently to meet with all of you again. As we bring this celebration again to a close, I invite you to hold close to the ways Christina touched your heart. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our service here today. Please rise as the attendants prepare to escort the family from the chapel.